Hey, it's Marcus from Holosuite, helping experimental artists make more, better music. One thing that I struggled with a lot for years, and I think many of my fellow musicians and clients have as well, is where to draw the line between mixing and mastering. Because we're doing it all ourselves these days for the most part. So where do you decide that mixing is finished and mastering starts? So here are a few things that I try to keep in mind when I'm getting to the mastering phase in my own music, so I can decide whether I'm ready to start the mastering process. As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This is really going to help me to keep making the kinds of content that you want to see. Let me know if there's anything specific that you'd like to learn in the comments, and I'll make a video for you. Don't forget to check the links in the description. We've got access to a free mastering sample if you're interested in trying my services, plus all of my free resources, including guides and templates. Number one thing I remind myself is that every adjustment in mastering affects the whole mix. So when we're mastering, we're working with a stereo file. So anytime I, for example, want to bring up the highs, I also have to understand that anything that was buried in the mix that I might not want to hear might also come up with it. So if I find myself raising up parts of the mix only to find other bits that I didn't like coming out, I'm going to go back to the mix to fix those. Number two, some things can't be undone at the mastering phase. The most important one here is probably phase issues. So if I've made everything super wide and I open up, for example, the ozone imager and see that everything has gone into anti-phase territory, no amount of reducing the stereo image may fix that. And reducing the stereo image to a point where it fixes it might make it sound absolutely terrible. So if I do find myself in that situation, I will also go back to the mix to try and fix that before I go back to mastering. Number three, mastering shouldn't be a transformation. So mastering should just be a few small adjustments to kind of polish everything up. If I am mastering my music and I feel like I need to really contort it to get to sound the way that I want it, that's another indication for me that I need to go back to my mix and think about how I've balanced everything out. When I get to the mastering, I just want to make some small tweaks. I really don't want to have to overhaul the thing completely to make it sound exactly the way that I want it. That should all be taken care of at the mix end. And number four, all that really matters is what suits the music. So if I am working on a particular track and it sounds fantastic at the mix phase, then I kind of switch to my mastering brain and I start to analyze whether this is going to meet the kind of technical standards that I usually have as a mastering engineer. If it's not going to fit that perfectly because the vibe needs to have certain parts of the frequency spectrum exaggerated when maybe I wouldn't normally like that, I have to think about what makes the music sound its best. And I do this with all of my clients as well. I will break any of my rules if it makes the music sound its best. Because really, the idea of mastering is that you should be able to sound the best on all sound systems. But really, that's only an ideal. I'm not going to make everything sound perfect on every single sound system. So I just want to make it sound best for the kinds of systems that I'm going to listen to it on, and that most of my listeners are going to listen to it on. So that's, earbuds, or maybe like kind of home stereo speakers, or a kind of cheap Bluetooth or something like that. If it sounds great on there, then I'm just going to let it go, even if it doesn't sound great for my amazing audiophile speakers, because the 5 people who are going to listen to my music and on audiophile speakers are probably, hopefully, going to be so involved in the music that they won't notice that it's not necessarily technically perfect. Next time you're going from the mixing to the mastering phase, keep these in mind. Just remember that if there are any technical issues, they should always be fixed in the mix first, because anything that you do at the mastering phase is going to affect the whole mix. It's always a compromise. Mixing has much more fine control over the details than the mastering section does. And until next time, keep making music. Cheers.